from there very equally. So my dear champions, the next question to the champion of champions, the public speaking master over here, Aaron, is that, among a bunch of people, when I'm with my gang, when I'm with the group of my people in my zone, I am the don and the boss of my group. Okay, I feel like I am amazing. Or let's say I'm a very introverted person who does not want to speak to my benchmate, right? In both of the cases, either I'm the boss of my gang or I'm the very, very nervous person in the group. When I'm asked by my teacher to go in the stage, or let's say in the classroom of 40 people to speak, there's an earthquake coming in my head. There's a fire in my body, and at the same time, there's a curfew in my mouth. There's a complete lockdown. Without the corona, there's a big lockdown in my mouth. So the nervousness and fear of public speaking comes up in most of the viewers' life. What can we do to be able to deal with the fear of public speaking in the right way?
Well, there's actually a little activity that you did earlier that really helps you figure out how to deal with your fear. And the first thing that you need to do, you need to specify exactly what that fear or nervousness is. Like you said, there are times when you're around your friends, you have zero fear at all conversing with your friends and talking amongst your family. You don't have any fear about that. But you have a fear when you're standing in front of a room with a group of people in front of you, and you're expected to say something to them. And you really want to figure out what it is that you are afraid of. You have to specify the fear. Are you afraid of the fact that you're just up there alone? Are you afraid that you're going to make a grammatical mistake? Are you afraid that you're going to forget what you want to say at all? Are you more afraid that you're being judged as you're standing there in front of everybody? Do you fear having a bad hair day and you're being asked to speak? You really want to specify what it is that you are afraid of. Never say that I am just afraid of public speaking. Because when you say that I'm afraid of public speaking, what you're doing, you're making your challenge this huge mountain that you cannot possibly overcome. However, if you specify your fear, you make that mountain into a small hurdle. Hurdles can be jumped over, hurdles can be walked around. So you want to specify exactly what it is. So I challenge everybody who is on this call and you have a fear or an anxiety, make sure that you sit down, reflect, and ask yourself, really, why do I fear public speaking?
Wow.
Ask that.
And one more thing, Aaron, many of times we fear things that may be not as bad. So a simple question that I use, I'll tell you something. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, over here, is that our general heartbeat is 60 to 100. And when we are going to public speaking, sometimes it jumps up to, it jumps up to 180 and 200 in some cases. And we feel really nervous. But what science has to say is, when you are in a little bit nervous state, let's say 120, 130, you are careful about the words that come out of your mouth. So some level of nervousness is good, number one. And the number two thing is the very beautiful question that Aaron mentioned, that why am I afraid? Naming the fear that you have, and at the same time asking, listen to this carefully. Hey, this is a very beautiful key. I want all of your attention. Okay, so the key is questioning number one, that what I am fearing about, and number two, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? So I go in front of my friends and try to speak, right? And in the worst case, I'm not able to speak in the right way, that I'm not able to express what I was wanting to. You know what? Your friends already know you, that you are afraid. And when you're trying to speak, you are creating an initial impression that you are trying. And who will be able, you might not give a wonderful speech, but who will be able to take away the satisfaction from your heart, the courage in your body, that even though you were afraid, you gave your best and you spoke up. So that's one realization that you must have. Everyone, quickly type in the comment section, fight the fear. Quickly type down, fight the fear. Wow, so many fight the fear coming in the comment section. Yes, Sushant, Sunday, Subeksha, Vaibhav, master speakers, right? And then you saw the vision that I want to become the world champion. It's obvious that you did not become world champion in 2012, but today you are the world champion, and you have been into the world championship 7 times before becoming the world champion. You have been through so much. Once you won the second prize, but you did not consider that your journey is full of inspiration. Please take us through the complete journey of where you started and where you have reached right now.
Wow. Okay. So that can take a while, but we'll start off in 2012. In 2012, I was a very young speaker, a very naive speaker, and I simply wanted to win the World Championship of Public Speaking for the accolades. I wanted the trophy, I wanted the fame. I thought that once I won the World Championship of Public Speaking, I would then become a millionaire the next day, and that I wouldn't have to work another day in my life. And that is what I expected, but I was quickly reminded that success does not come that easily. You have to work harder, and sometimes you're going to have to fall, you're going to have to stumble, and that's exactly what I did. I fell and I stumbled in 2012, so I just continued on into 2013. 2013 was the year that I finally got a mentor for public speaking, and I was taught the fundamentals of public speaking and of storytelling, and I owe my mentor a great deal. Even though he only officially coached me in 2013, just learning the fundamentals and learning the basic concepts of public speaking, I held on to those for years after, and I would not be the world champion today if not for my public speaking mentor. I continued to learn in 2014 and 2015. I tried different styles. I tried to be very energetic and have almost a poem in my speech, but it was too stylized. It was too not real. It was too inauthentic. So I tried in 2015 to tell a personal story, just a simple story about me. And I honestly thought people wouldn't like it. But what I learned that year was that people enjoy hearing a simple story because it's relatable to the life that they experience. So you want to find a relatable story that can be useful to other people and that other people can universally share the experience with you. In 2016, that was the first year that I made it to the World Championship of Public Speaking, and I made it to the World Championship of Public Speaking with that story that I thought that nobody would originally like. But when I got to the world stage in 2016, I gave my speech and everybody loved my speech. But when I left the stage, I left the stage with regret. I didn't feel like I gave it my all. I didn't feel like I did my absolute best. And I regretted that. When I was on stage, I started thinking about the judging. I started thinking about how I would be marked down in the contest instead of focusing on what was more important. And what's most important for any speaker is to give a message of value to your audience. That is the #1 goal of a speaker. So I then left the stage in 2016 with that regret, and I said, from now on, I'm going to concentrate on speech execution and making sure that I tell the message that I intend to give. So that was my goal in 2017. In 2017, I made it back to the semifinals, but could not get back to the World Championship. But I left the stage knowing that I did my absolute best. In 2018, I actually regressed in result even further. I couldn't get out of the quarterfinals that year. And that was very disappointing for me. I felt that I was improving as a speaker, but my results were going backwards. But I stayed persistent. I just kept working hard because, again, I knew that I was getting better. So in 2019, I created a new speech. I wanted to focus on the concept of unity and people being together in this very divided time. I thought that it was a message that was worth sharing, which is something else that as a speaker, you want to share a message that people will care about. You want to share a message that you truly believe in. And that's what I did in 2019, which led me back to the World Championship. There, I had that one goal from 2016. I did not want to leave the stage with regret again. I wanted to do better than I did in 2016. And I'm happy to report that I currently sit as the world champion of public speaking, and I have this trophy here to prove it.
Oh, I will take that away.
Nah, I think I'll
That
keep it.
doesn't come that easy, Aaron, isn't it?
No, not at all.
So, one thing, as you shared your story, I have a question. Like, every time preparing.
So my question is, what do you use as a source for your motivation after your failure?
Well, I touched on it a little bit before. I am deeply motivated by my own growth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really vital to keep track of where you started and keep that in mind, because when you look at where you started to where you currently are, you will find sometimes that you have gotten so much better. And when you've realized that, you say to yourself, wow, that's really cool that I got so much better since that time in the past. Now I wonder what I can do in the future. Can I get even better than I am right now? Is there something else that I can work on? What is it? When I was competing in the international speech contest, there were certain goals that I would set for myself year after year after year. And one year I wanted to work on my storytelling skills. Another year I wanted to work on my vocal variety and body movement. That's right. Where I learned how you shouldn't over dramatize your body movements. So that was my lesson, and I grew because of that. Over the years, I just saw that I was growing as a speaker, and more people were relating to what I was telling them. So that was extremely motivating for me, the process of getting back.
That once the fear of public speaking is mastered, is controlled upon Aaron, there's one thing that is hardest. And you might give a speech. Giving a speech is a different thing, and giving an effective speech, giving a speech that makes people smile, giving a speech that impacts lives, giving a speech that creates impact, giving a speech that makes people say that, wow, that was an amazing speech, a speech that moves people, that's a completely different thing. So after fighting the fear, it comes to developing a wonderful content. So how can I develop a very beautiful content on any speech that I want to give?
Yeah. And actually, before I get to developing the content, I just want to say one more thing about fear. And that is that the fear never completely goes away. You will probably never eliminate your fear 100%. And as you mentioned before, a little bit of nervousness is a good thing because it keeps you alert and it makes you more conscious of what it is you are trying to say. So never aim for the elimination of fear, just aim for the management of your fear. So be able to act despite your fear. But when it comes to the content that you're creating, what's extremely important is that you have a message, I'll say it again, have a message that you truly believe in, or a message that you truly want to share. Your job as a speaker is to provide value to your audience. That value could be information that they may need. It could be motivating them with an inspirational story. There has to be some value that you are going to give your audience. Now, after you have a message that you believe in and that you want to give to your audience, you really have to try to make it relatable. So we go back to that word, relatable. A lot of people will try to tell you about the millions of dollars that they have and how they go about managing their millions of dollars and their big mansions and their fancy yachts. That's not relatable to me because I don't have those things. Now, I can dream of having those things. I can aspire to have those things one day, but I cannot relate to the person speaking other than holding them on a pedestal. And a little bit about me, I don't like holding people on pedestals because I like to see people as people. We're all human
Wow.
beings. We all have stories of triumph. So what is your story of triumph? What was a challenge that you had to overcome, and you are now in a state where you can share the knowledge of how you overcame that challenge to other people? That is the greatest way to bring value to somebody else, to tell them about the challenges that you've had. For instance, as a student, maybe you've had difficulty with an exam and it was a really hard exam, but you persevered, you were able to pass that exam. So now you have value that you can bring to people who are younger than you. You can tell them the tips that you use to study for that exam. You can tell them the things that you use to stay focused. You can tell them about the ways that you decided how you had to, or sorry, you could tell them about how you kept from being nervous about taking the exam, or how you kept yourself from being stressed out. These are the valuable things that you can tell people. And as a speaker, that is what your job is, provide that value. So that is where you start to develop your content.
So, my dear champions, listen to this carefully, okay? If someone is listening to you, okay, can we create a content that is relatable, okay? That's what Aaron meant to say. The one point over there was, if I am a student and you are a student, or let's say you are a speaker over there, can you say something that relates to the problems I face, the happy moments I have, the challenges I go through, or anything that I can relate to? The key is relatability, number one. The second thing that was coming out of Aaron's thought process, can I add value? First, you relate to your audience. Second, relevant. We are definitely taking your question. The question over here is, we talked about developing a wonderful content, okay? And then, as you said about understanding why I'm afraid, and then be able to question what's the worst that can happen. Then I'm ready with a beautiful content about relevance, about specific, about value I want to add. Then I go to speak in front of people, and then this time I'm not afraid, okay? But I speak in a way that people find monotonous. That I speak and people don't enjoy and say, wow, that was a freaking amazing speech over there. That what can I do in my body language, in my voice sense, or anything else? What can I do in those senses that people love to hear my speech, that my speech has a wonderful value addition in that way as well?
Yeah. Well, this is where it can get tricky because it's going to be different for different people. You have to understand where you are comfortable speaking and be able to go slightly outside of your comfort zone, but not too far outside of your comfort zone. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, as a speaker, there are some speakers who go way too far with their presentations and their body language. They say something, for instance, I went outside. And then I looked at the sun. It's way over dramatic. You're not performing a Shakespeare play. You're just telling a speech. So what I advise people that they should take into account how they talk to their friends and their family. What are the natural body movements that they use when they are talking to friends and family? That's something that you will want to bring on the stage to your audience, because when you're talking to your friends and your family, that is when you are most natural. I am a big champion of being natural when you are speaking. For instance, we watched a little bit of my World Championship speech from 2019. In that speech, there are very few movements that I did that I do not make in my normal everyday conversations. So you won't see too many big grand gestures. A lot of people think that you need to be big and grand in order to be entertaining, in order for your audience to find you engaging. That is not true. You can make simple changes to add some engagement to your presentations and to make it more entertaining. One of the best ways to do that is through vocal variety.
Okay.
Right now,
Vocal variety.
Yes, right now I have vocal variety. So I'm not speaking in a monotone voice throughout the entire time I'm talking. I change things up a bit. So there are different ways that you can change things up. You can change things up with your pacing. For instance, I can go much slower in my speech.
Okay.
And usually it happens when you really want to emphasize
That's right.
a point.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use your pause to really emphasize a point, or you can do as I did with that word, you can slightly raise your volume for a certain point. And also you can go in the opposite direction when it comes to pacing. You can speak incredibly fast, and you may want to be careful about this because when you speak fast, people can't understand you, and you definitely want to make sure that you're understood. So use both sides of pacing. You can speak fast and you can speak slow, but try not to do either one for too long. Another way is just through a simple inflection. What is an inflection? Well, if you ask a question, so do you want to ask a question? That end of the sentence, that's a slight inflection. And that is something that you can do to add a little bit of vocal variety into your presentations. Now, it will take some time to get used to it. You'll have to practice it. But again, you want to recognize what you do when you are talking to friends and family, and just try it out. Try to go slightly outside of your comfort zone. Don't go all the way out. Don't perform a play when you are supposed to be giving a speech. Try to have more toned down body language. Try to have more toned down vocal variety, and have your presentation be conversational.
That's right. So if I can paraphrase in one word, you have to maintain your composure and then make sure you are maintaining that loop of right kind of the pace you are having in your speech. So let's say I want to say something right now, I can speak in a very fast tone. I want to get all of the attention, but then I want to make a special point. Now, if you notice carefully, when I'm saying slowly, you have much more attention than you normally have.
Yep.
So our brain works that way. You can speak faster to grab attention, and then you can speak slower to again re-grab attention. So it's completely maintaining that loop as per required in situations. Now we will take the questions from our audience. Yes, we have so many questions. One question over here. I'll take.